But yeah, I guess you just got it's a skill in itself. Just let it fall off your back and figure out. Yeah, and always just focus on like, okay, what can I do to prevent that? And if it's something you can't prevent, then it's absolutely nothing to lose sweat over. You know what I mean? Like if someone strobed you in the face or you slipped and then you weren't set up for the solo right and you fucked it up, there's nothing you can do about that. Like for me now, it's all just mentality, like breathing, like, you know what I mean, and being calm before I go on and not pressing too hard and playing too hard, and you know what I mean.
Hey, what's up, Vox and Hops heads? I'm Matt, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, brought to you by Sound Talent Media and Evergreen Podcasts, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians, talk about their lives, music, and craft beer. Hope you had a killer weekend. I most certainly did. This Vox and Hops episode is presented by Heavy Montreal. Heavy Montreal are Montreal's premier metal promoter, and I'm very stoked to have them behind the podcast. Heavy Montreal have two massive shows coming through the Montreal area in the next few weeks. They have the tour to end all tours. That's right, Sabaton and Epica will be here on October 22nd at Place Belle in Laval. And there is also the Trivium Between the Buried and Me, Whitechapel and Chemist tour. That will be coming to Montreal on M-Telus on Wednesday, October 26th. If you would like to get your tickets to either of these shows, head on over to their website, heavymontreal.com. I have put that link in the description of this podcast. I am going to be at these shows, so you most certainly should be as well. Come party with me and enjoy some metal in Montreal, presented by Heavy Montreal. It's going to be a blast. This Saturday, October 29th, come celebrate the 4-year anniversary of Vox and Hops at Turbo Haüs in my hometown of Montreal on St. Denis Street. To celebrate the fact that I've been running this podcast for 4 years, I am going to be recording a live podcast episode where I have put two amazing individuals head-to-head, a vocal battle. That's right, we got Pascal Germain Berardi, who is a professional classical vocalist, against Sébastien Croteau, the extreme vocal expert. Clean vocals versus harsh vocals. Who is going to come out on top? I can't wait to host this conversation. Both of these musicians are absolutely incredible. I cannot wait. So damn stoked for this live podcast recording happening October 29th at Turbo Haüs for the 4-year anniversary of the podcast. But there is more. That's right. The Great Sabatini, one of my favorite Montreal-based bands, will be performing a very exclusive set for us that night. Come party with me at Turbo Haüs October 29th. Come enjoy life, metal, and craft beer in celebrations of 4 years of Vox and Hops. Now, before we jump into today's episode, I'd just like to ask you to follow the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast on the podcast platform of your choice. But more than that, I would love for you to tell one of your guitar-playing friends that the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast exists. You could tell them that there are over 370 episodes where I sit down with some of the world's best metal musicians and we talk all about their lives and music while sharing a craft beer. If you would encourage one of your guitar-playing friends to become a brand new Vox and Hops head, that would be something that I would truly appreciate. Now, today on the podcast, I'm joined by Scott Carstairs of Fallujah. Get ready, everyone. This is Vox and Hops episode number 373.
I warn you, what you are about to hear is very disturbing indeed.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Today I'm with Scott Carstairs of Fallujah. First time that we're hanging out. We sort of met each other at Brutal Assault. I reminded you of that. Yes. I remember that. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Let's just start with a very simple, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, really good. I'm happy to be in Canada. I'm happy you guys let me into the country. That's cool. And this city is awesome. And excited to drink beers, have a conversation. Yeah, it seems like a lot of good stuff to eat around here. So, yeah, I'm hyped to be in a cool city. Yeah.
Hell yes, Montreal rules, obviously. We are very stoked and very lucky to be at Turbo Haüs, where Vox and Hops, myself, I curate their craft beer list. Let's just jump straight into it. We're going to be drinking a Festbier by Lagerbräu. This is actually the second Lagerbräu brew that I feature here. You wanted something crispy. This is definitely what they got going on right now. Festbier is brewed in honor of the Oktoberfest-style brews. Lagerbräu are a very cool young brewery from here in Quebec. They contract brew out of Avant-Garde. It's a killer brewery. Cool people that run it. I can't like them enough. I'm going to pour this out. You pour out your beer, and we'll come back with more questions. Gorgeous. It pours out with a nice light yellowish, sort of orangey see-through veil. Love it. Nice little head on it. Gorgeous. Let's do a cheers, then we'll move forward. Cheers to you.
Cheers, man.
Got that cereal nose. smooth, very beery taste.
Yes, beery taste.
Would be like an old school sweetish sort of beery taste.
It's
very
definitely wet tasting. It's not a very dry tasting beer, that's for sure.
That's good.
I used to work at a coffee shop for like 8 years, so I kind of got experience with coffee. Not so much beer, but I can kind of detect little ways of describing things like that. But
I can respect that. Here we are, live interview, downtown Montreal. We got the firefighters running by. I like that very much.
yeah, it's the real city life.
Here we go. Let's just jump straight into it.
Yeah, it's nice.
Vox&Hops, all about hanging out with my metal friends, talking about life, metal, while sharing a craft beer. Shittiest question, the one that I like to start these off with. How did you cope with the glorious years, plural, of 2020, 2021, half of 2022, and most certainly, hopefully, none of 2023?
Yes, the pandemic of doom. Yeah, dude, I mean, when we were like fully on tour for our album Undying Light, we were fully doing like a album cycle. We were in Europe February 2020, and then we did Mexico like the beginning of March or something like that, and we were supposed to go on tour with Legion and Entheos in March.
Yes.
And it was in America. And I remember all that shit was going on at the airport and in the news, you know what I mean, when we were coming home from those other tours. And I had yet to order the merch for the Allegiant tour. And we were just like, all right, let's just give it another couple weeks. We had never waited this long to order merch, you know what I mean? Normally it'd be well past that. And then, yeah, I remember just waiting and waiting. So we weren't too sure. And then, yeah, we got the news that it got canceled. And then we realized everybody had to cancel everything. So it went totally crazy. And yeah, I remember just like everything that we're used to doing for the last 10 years, because we started touring when we were like 18 or something. Now we had to figure a completely new deal out. And also while, everybody's kind of just like doesn't know when it's going to end. And so you're kind of like
the ambiguity of it all.
Yeah, you can't plan out like, all right, well, I'll make this last for like a year or something. It's almost kind of like you got to start seeking out like new things that might be permanent. You know what I mean? So first thing I thought of was, all right, well, I'm going to have to like dive into the internet essentially more than I have ever been before. I was doing Instagram, but kind of casually or whatever, and I mainly did that to connect with new Fallujah fans, but also like connect with students, because that was kind of my main thing, was teaching at the time.
That was your side hustle when not touring.
Yeah, the main thing was touring, but the side hustle to kind of like fill in all the gaps was scheduling lessons with people and booking sometimes studio time, recording people, and also doing session work and guest solos and all that from people asking from the band. And so So I was like, yeah, I just need to make that bigger, bring more attention. So the first thing I did was kind of get into video equipment, what I need. And I thought, okay, maybe I'll just put up, video covers and kind of go down the path of my friend Dean Lamb.
Yeah.
He had kind of already had that established. And
yeah, he was actually killing it.
Yeah, and he actually was the main dude that, every time I had a question about cameras, he was giving me all the info about, I didn't know anything about capture cards or DSLRs or how to get that cool look on your videos and all that. So that guy shout out to that guy. He helped me out with finding all the equipment and kind of got started. And I started, trying to put out some YouTube videos. I did some like Fallujah covers, and I was doing, what is that one crazy one? Crossroads, you know what I mean? I was just trying to do the craziest shit I could think of, bring as much.
Get those clicks.
Yeah, more attention. I think I did like Bleed by Meshuggah in one take with my 7-string. I like transcribed it.
Amazing.
Just make it weird or something like that. But yeah, that's a grind, and it doesn't really like. It takes a while for it to start like kind of picking up, and it was kind of picking up, but I don't know, it wasn't really exciting. I think Nuclear Blast put on a stream for Fallujah on Twitch to like kind of like raise money for bands that are being destroyed by the pandemic or something like that. And it gave me an idea. I was like, yeah, why don't I just go on Twitch and kind of invite everybody that's got me on Instagram and Facebook to kind of hang out, and I don't know, we'll just start with like kind of Q&A, and maybe I'll play through some songs. Like I started off with just like a shitty webcam and like a room mic, and we just started off with conversations, and then we eventually built a schedule, and eventually it turned into me performing songs, and then eventually performing in front of a green screen, and then I upgraded to an entire room that's a green screen.
Really?
So my full body's on the screen, and
so sick.
Then we have all these crazy backgrounds that the audience can change and redeem, and they could even change my face. They could turn me into a goat, or all while playing Meshuggah songs and Decapitated, Cattle Decap, all
as hard as possible.
Yeah, and this. So that was, it started moving really fast with that. You know what I mean? I started getting attention with that, and having an audience every time I would play, and also having like Fallujah fans kind of like reinvigorated. It seems like we had like a small little group, and and these people were requesting songs that I haven't played in like 5 or 10 years. You know what I mean? So over the 2 years, I ended up like relearning our entire discography, which I had, some of those songs I never even listened to. You know what I mean? I'm sure you know what's up with
I was
having
just gonna
older
say,
albums.
yeah.
Like, you don't go sit
You
there.
forget. You record them, you write them, you record them, and then they're gone.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, but people are asking you when you put out a new album, you're like, they're asking about your history, and you're talking about it like you really know it. You know what I mean?
It's like an old girlfriend that you've never.
Yeah. It's kind of you're kind of like, you're like, I know where we're at in our path, but I feel like doing that and learning all those songs, it made me really in touch with our music, and not only that, but in touch with what people like about our music and what they connect with. Because it's like live right there. I have a chat saying, "Yo, play this song," and I'm like, "You want to hear that song? That's
so
boring.
interesting."
Yeah, that song's boring to me. You know what I
Really?
mean? So it even changed the way we would like create a set list, because I feel like we understand what people want versus what satisfies us. And our egos being the musicians that are creating it. I don't know. So that's all happening, and it got to the point where I didn't have to teach guitar lessons anymore, and that's
because Twitch is covering
it's worth
those expenses.
Yeah, and it's way more worth my time.
Income, sorry. Twitch is covering that income.
Yeah, and lessons, I put a lot of time into those. So it's like, so I spent all the time on Twitch, and we were writing the album, you know what I mean? And it was just a really good experience. I know a lot of people didn't have a lot of good experiences. It wasn't all good. There was like tons of obstacles. Obviously, we lost band members. Everybody went on different paths. There's a lot of things that I didn't want to happened or whatever. But overall, I'm super grateful for all the things that have happened. And I think because of that whole Twitch thing and going through all that and learning all that music and being in touch with those people, I think the album came out really awesome, because it was like I'd be doing these live kind of shows, and then that night I'd be working on riffs, you know what I mean, with the feedback I just received, like, that day, like, oh, they like something like that, or I'm going to make something 10 times crazier tonight, you know what I mean? I'm just like this kind of feedback,
I think that's so damn cool. Of course, you're talking about your new album, Empyrean.
Yes, yeah.
Which came out back on September 9th via Nuclear Blast. Shout out to Nuclear Blast for hooking you up with Twitch, giving you that outlet to connect with people, to fall in love and reconnect with your old material, and then actually finding the true identity of what people love about Fallujah.
Sure, yeah. And honestly, the last like 4 or 5 years before that, I kind of went into like a more hipstery kind of genre with what I like to listen to, you know what I mean? Like,
do you think that was bleeding into what Fallujah was at that time?
Yeah, I mean, if you listen to the album before this one, it's like super shoegazy, black metal, airy, atmospheric, because I think it was like finally I just decided to just go with the music I was listening to at the time and kind of push those ideas, the kind of grungy, almost like Deftones, but also Wolves in the Throne Room, but also some shoegaze bands that I really like Whir would be another one, just obsessed with that kind of breathy, depressive sound or whatever. So the bands I was listening to with the first album when we were like 17 and 18, I wasn't really spinning those records as much, you know what I mean? But being on Twitch and learning material, and the whole vibe of our channel is like death metal and guitar work, you know what I mean? So we'll do Steve Vai, but we'll also do like Cattle Decap and Decapitated, and all of a sudden I'm relearning these old songs by like Necrophagist and getting back into like Deeds of Flesh and Severed Savior and Spawn of Possession, and I'm just like in the last 2 years realizing like, damn, this is my favorite genre. Like I like that other stuff. Maybe I just need to get away from it because I was younger, but like death metal and technical death metal, 100% my favorite kind of music there is, and I had to remember that.
You can love shoegaze and all that stuff, but it doesn't necessarily have to bleed into the identity of what Fallujah is.
Sure, yeah.
And then replaying those songs that you were playing when you were 17, is it so much easier now because you're such a more prolific guitarist?
I mean, it was easier when then I was younger, but for sure, going back and learning those riffs, I was like rolling my eyes, like, God damn, like we're really trying to. And I remember being a kid, being like, oh, it has to be as crazy as possible. We have to get attention. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I definitely we're relearning it, kind of like, oh, this is exhausting. Like, dude, like you put so many notes in this thing.
You've learned over time that the notes don't matter; it's the whole song structure and the vibe that's the most important.
Yeah. So some of those songs are still super challenging.
Good for you. Good for you to using the pandemic as a good time to grow and to reconnect with your fans in a deeper, meaningful way.
Yeah.
Growing a community around the band. It's amazing. It's what musicians are supposed to do, is how it started, right? musicians started playing in little pubs, and people would come and get to know them, and then it would grow and grow into other pubs, and people would follow. It's the same thing, except the Twitch is the little pub.
Yeah, it's like a digital busking, basically.
It's
yeah, it's weird. Yeah, and if so many people that didn't know Fallujah found it through Twitch. Like yesterday in Quebec City, there was people that found the Twitch, and then from Twitch got into the band, and now they're at the show. Yeah,
same thing with the podcast in an opposite way.
Yeah.
I love it. Back to beer. Classic Vox and Hops question. Do you remember your first beer?
Yeah, my dad gave it to me, I think. And I think it was because... I can't remember. Well, I think first one I had was a non-alcoholic beer, actually, because... we were working on a house and there was no water.
You got to stay hydrated.
Yeah, I was like, I'm so thirsty. He's like, well, there's these non-alcoholic beers you could have. So I remember drinking it and hating it. But no, I think, again, my first real beer was with my dad. And... yeah, I think I must have been like 19 or something like that. In the States, it's supposed to be 21 or whatever.
Yes, exactly.
But I think I just
in Canada, it's 18, so it's not against the law, people.
Yeah, it's just trying. I don't know. I just tried it for the taste of it or whatever. He's really into IPAs. He's still really into...
Really? So your dad turned into a craft beer enthusiast?
Yeah, he's into the double IPAs. I cannot...
Really? Big, heavy, 8%ers.
Dude, I cannot stand them. Like, when I come home to visit the family, he always has to give me like a separate thing of beer.
Different flight.
It just tastes like syrup to me, man. I don't know. It's too...
So if you are going in your craft beer evolution from that first beer from your dad's, where are you at now? If you're going to go out and order a beer here today, you said you wanted something light, like a lager, which is why we're drinking this Festbier.
Yeah, it's kind of where I'm at.
It's actually 6%. It's a 6%er Festbier. No.
Yeah, I guess just that my family always drank IPAs and had different IPAs. Like we always had pale ales and Lagunitas, like, you know, kind of California IPAs.
I know, I'm jealous. I'm like, this is cool.
Yeah,
you were like, I want the opposite.
Oh yeah, and after years, I realized how lethargic it made me and shit. And it's good, it tastes good, but now I just I stick with like Modelo's and Mexican beers because I can stay light on my feet. You know what I mean?
You got to stay sharp. I like that.
Yeah, and especially when we're on tour like this, and it's all I'm thinking about is the performance. Like,
hell yes, it's the only reason why we're here.
Am I going to get tired from this? Same with the food too. It's the same thing. It's like, you can't have this bread or this rice because I'm going to be crashing in 2 hours, and then I'm going to deal with that. And,
So it's a mature approach.
Yeah, for sure.
Is that something you've learned over time?
Yeah, for sure.
Was there moments when Fallujah was a party band?
Maybe not a party band, but you just try things and you're just like, that didn't go so well. You know, like someone's like has a joint and you're like, yeah, fuck it, I'll try it before the set. Let's smoke this whole thing.
See, I've never done that.
Yeah, I've done it. Never. It's the worst. It's the worst idea for me. Some people have fun, but that's literally when you have solos. Yeah, you're done.
And every solo is different and has a different feel. And
yes, and especially for the tour we're on, we're playing the whole album all the way through. So it's like I have
amazing
13 or 14 solos. It's just like really stressful. It's been stressful. Kind of.
Another classic Vox and Hops question: when you were growing up in your parents' house, what music was playing when you were not in control of the radio? What music did your parents listen to?
Well, my dad was definitely into metal. My mom was into it too. Like they went to see like the big monsters of rock or whatever the fuck with like Eddie Van Halen. Yeah, the big four. They would go to that shit. So there was always, Metallica. There was always Nirvana, Deftones, Tool. My dad was super into Korn and Tool. So like I remember like going to the store with him to get the new Korn CD or whatever, and then like staring at the cover because it had, they always had crazy art or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
So, so it's a lot of metal influence, a lot of Deftones too. I remember always hearing White Pony all the time. Like it was just on repeat forever. And then. What else? Scorpions were in there. The Eagles were in there, and that was my parents' kind of thing. I think my mom, she had some more feminine stuff like Dixie Chicks and some other, I don't know, stuff your mom would listen to. But yeah, my dad definitely he pushed metal hard. In fact, he took me to Ozfest when I was younger. So,
really?
Yeah, really pushed it over
That's
the edge.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
At what point did you bring something into the house that was too much for your dad?
Oh yeah, that's a good ass question. Yeah. Okay, so it was actually the same year that I went to Ozfest or something, and Ozfest had closer to what my dad was listening to, but it was still kind of getting a little wilder. And at the time, I think I was really into Trivium. You know what I mean? That's what brought me. That's what made me want to go to the fest. But because I'm like a kid, I just looked at the entire lineup and then just got everybody's CDs. So you know what I mean? So I was like, fuck it. If I'm going to go to this festival, I'm not going to waste my money and and not just see Trivium and be like, I don't know anybody of these. So I remember checking everybody out. There's like a dozen Furies. Shadows Fall, In Flames. I think Black Dahlia was on that one. I think who was another one that Between the Buried and Me, straight up discovered from seeing them on that lineup and then downloading all their CDs. Yeah, there was a bunch of bands like that, and then I think. Later that year, like in the summer at some point, I went down with my friends because I'm in the Bay Area. That's where I grew up. We went down to Fresno because he had family there, so I went some friends with Fresno. We went to the small club show, and at that small club show was Job for a Cowboy, Animosity, Cattle Decapitation, From a Second Story Window, and I actually I know there's another band that I forgot. I don't know, but that insane lineup.
Absolutely.
And yeah, after that, it was like that's when I was into death metal. I remember literally like spending like from that night after that just going to everybody's like top 8s and just like searching for everybody else's bands that are on there, trying to find more and more and more.
Yes,
and,
similar artists.
Yeah.
What a gift we were given.
Yeah, truly, yeah. And people would sometimes drop their influences in the bio. I would go through all those bands, and it was just, that was it. That's how I found Psychroptic and Necrophagist and all the bands that were in the Bay, like Decrepit Birth and Severed Savior and all that shit. And yeah, it was a done deal. And that's when my dad was like, I don't know what the fuck this is.
What was it about the extreme music that was too much for your dad?
I think it was just the pure brutality and the vocals, of course.
The vocals tend to be...
like, whoa. Yeah, but I mean, he's gotten down some pretty heavy music before. But yeah, I think once it gets to like straight up like, so many notes being thrown at you and double kicks and like snare hits, like you gotta, it's almost like you gotta develop that. Like,
where is the one?
Yeah, for real. It was way past Tool and Deftones and Korn. Yeah.
Interesting, very cool. See, that's a very, very different approach that I get than most artists. There's a few, like a handful of artists that have had that same type of upbringing. Ben from Shadow of Intent.
Yeah, I know.
Has the same sort of growing up with Korn in the house and Slipknot in the house, and then becoming, a crazy vocalist. You becoming a crazy guitarist. I think that's so cool. What point did the guitar come in? Was it always something that you wanted to gravitate towards?
Well, I think my friend got one or something, and I always had a guitar at our house. We had an acoustic guitar.
Okay. Because your dad played, or
no, it's just at the house. I think it was my grandpa's or something. My dad did not play guitar at all. You know what I mean? He was a tradesman, but his brother was a guitar player. And as soon as his brother found out, my uncle found out that I liked guitar, he was like, all right, I'll give him guitar lessons. And yeah, that was kind of a big thing. He literally gave me one of his old guitars. It was a shitty guitar.
It has to be. The first one has to be.
Yeah, and
I think you got to work. Honestly, I think that's an important. If anyone's listening and your kids are into guitar, don't buy them the best fucking guitar right away.
Yeah, you're right.
Make them work for it.
Yeah, I think you're right, dude. Yeah, 100%. I've never seen anybody get some super nice shit ever. Kind of like
and then are they going to really continue?
Yeah. Where are they working towards? They need some boundaries for sure. But my uncle, that's my dad's brother. That first guitar lesson, he dropped. I had my background with my parents or whatever, and I think it was they were into all the stuff I was talking about. But my uncle burned me like. And all of Jimi Hendrix discography, all of the Beatles, all of David Bowie, and all of did I say Led Zeppelin already?
No.
But yeah, it was like this big ass bag. Wow. It was the first day of lessons or whatever because you knew
this is your homework.
Yeah, pretty much. And then I listened to those nonstop and got to know Jimi Hendrix. He became my favorite artist out of all that bunch. But I knew all the other stuff, and so we learned all those songs and learned about the theory for it all. And that was kind of like where I started getting into guitar, and that was when I was like 12. So I was the kid wearing the Led Zeppelin shirts and the Jimi Hendrix shirts at school, and then I always, my dad always listened to metal, so I always knew that kind of music or whatever. But at the time, I was into this classic rock kind of guitar music or whatever. And then Ozfest and all those death metal shows kind of brought it to where now I'm putting together a band and trying to put together music. It was all really the same year, really, like 2005 kind of.
What a formative time! Isn't it crazy what happens in high school? I always say this all the time to my friends and stuff. High school felt like it lasted forever. It was 5 years. If you look back at how many 5 years have passed since then, for me it's 4 or 5 times that. It's fucking crazy.
It just goes
but
right
those
by.
Formative years seem to be so important, and time seemed to have passed slower.
Yeah, it's like made everything a little bit more important during those times. Yeah, it's like those albums that came out too. Just seems like
in your brain forever. And if you go back there and I listen to those albums, let's say Korn's first album.
Right.
I have this scene when I was not happy leaving high school.
Yeah.
And it was the I can't stand the sight of you. I can't stand all
So
the
metal.
things you do. And I have it in my brain. Like I can be right
Goes
back
right
there.
with it. Yeah,
it's crazy.
It matches it. Yeah,
Yeah.
dude, I don't know about you. When I go back to that era of the records, I'm like, oh, that's their best album. Oh, that's their best album. I don't know if it's just in our head or whatever, or if that was just
We're
a great
old.
time.
We're getting old.
Yeah, maybe.
I know I'm getting old.
Yeah, I don't know. Who cares?
First shows. You mentioned the Ozfest show. I'd like to take you back even further. Do you remember the first live music experience you went to
Yeah,
go
I do
see?
actually. My grandparents took me to Styx and
Yes.
Peter Frampton.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Actually.
it was pretty dope. Yeah, I was
Peter
surprised.
Frampton was like a guitar god.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so it lines up perfectly.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, he was awesome. Yeah, Styx was sick. They had a huge show. I think I saw him at the, the Concord Pavilion. I can't remember. It was a while ago, but something like that. Is in the Bay Area, basically. And then, Styx put on this huge show. And then, I loved Peter Frampton. It was awesome. He had the fucking talk box with his guitar, and he was super charismatic or whatever. But that was the first one. Yeah, I remember specifically. Yeah.
Shout out once again to Tim Donnelly for showing me Peter Frampton with the talk box.
Oh, sick.
When I was 4 or 5 years, I can't remember.
Oh, wow,
the same guy that had the Alice Cooper poster in his room that terrified me. The first approach to extreme visuals in metal, let's say, in music, let's say.
So that was it for you? Does that what exposed you to extreme music?
Early, I think Tim Donnelly. I haven't seen it. I say it on the podcast all the time, but I'd have to write him a message today.
Really? What was your first metal album?
Oof. Manson, I think, was the first.
Manson? Really?
Yeah.
That's funny. My very first album that I ever got was a Iron Maiden self-titled, or the very first one or whatever. That's not the Killers, right? It's before the Killers. Right?
I'm horrible at Maiden.
I remember being like a little kid, like 5 or 6,
fan, yeah.
and my friend ordered a stack of CDs, and his mom said, "Not this one."
The Columbian House.
I don't know what it was, but he had this stack of CDs, and his mom was like, "You can't have these ones."
So
and he just gave them to
wanted.
me. Yeah. I was like, "Sick, I'll take them." But I listened to those like crazy. Yeah.
Amazing.
I mean, I was already hearing my dad's metal, but that was the first time I got my own CD, and I was like,
this
"Oh
is mine."
shit!" And the cover had one of them was, because it was 2 of them, I think, and one of them it was Killers, where he was about to fucking whack somebody with an axe.
Yeah.
They were like begging for their lives.
So scary.
Yeah, I was like,
this is
must have
awesome.
been like 7 years old. Like, this is crazy. This is wild.
How about your first time on stage? Here you are.
Oh, first time on stage. Yeah.
2005, trying to start a band. You obviously did start a band. I don't know if you were playing on stage before that.
No, it was, never. The first time I played on stage was with Fallujah, actually.
No way.
Yeah, that was my 16th birthday at a venue called the Red House in Walnut Creek. Yeah, I remember that night pretty vividly.
No way.
Yeah, actually. Yeah, because we were formed the band, we were jamming, and that was when it's when I turned 16, and I remember, I think 2005 for me was when I was 14, and so probably got into it when I was 15, formed the band, and we finally got enough songs and booked a show with some people, and we played it when I was 16.
Were you ready?
I don't know. I circle headbanged. I remember that. I swung my little emo thing around my head, so I remember that. That was a constant. I still do that today. But I remember getting a little drunk and stoned, and then the next morning all my homies were sleeping in my room, and I totally got busted for fucking I got left all my shit out, you know what I mean?
I got it.
Yeah, so we were partying since the first show, dude. I got grounded after that, I think.
Worth it.
Yeah. I was still allowed to play my guitar, though.
Totally worth it.
So you piece of shit.
Let's jump into Empyrean.
All right.
Brand new album. Came out, Nuclear Blast. I gotta ask. It's an annoying question.
Oh, go
Second
for it.
annoying question. You know where this is going. Lineup change.
Oh, sure.
You mentioned a little bit during the pandemic that people's paths were going in separate directions. Well, we know in death metal, extreme music in general, it's hard to keep a lineup together.
Oh, yeah. You need millions of dollars to keep people around when they hate each other.
Retainers. When they hate each other.
No, okay, we didn't hate each other. Sorry, just to clarify that. But you can imagine when you hate your job or something. I don't know. No, a lot of it was understandable. So it's really easy to talk about. Rob had been in the band for 10 plus years. We went on our first tour together. Or he didn't go on the first tour, but he went on the second tour. The first tour was when we were 18, and I think he shortly after, because we were taking it more serious, the people that, I think we kicked some members out back then. We were like, let's get some serious dudes. He was that dude that we got. And he had been there for 10 plus years, and he would help with writing music, but not not a hands-on approach. It'd be more like I'd show him demos and his feedback, and he's that hype guy, you know what I mean? He knows all the music I like. We have the same, passion for the music, and that really helps when you're working on music. So he's always there. And then, the pandemic happens, and it's like, we're never. It's like our whole rig that we had kind of fell apart. We made all our schedules based off of that, and I believe especially him. He like I'm going gung ho. I was like, all right, pandemic, fine. I'm going to go into the internet and I'm going to write the craziest album I could possibly do, and just wait up
Fallujah.
for me. Yeah. So I think he was like, going through all that and then not really knowing, because it's a lot of work to do these albums, and then not knowing that we're going to do all this tour and stuff. I don't think he wanted to waste his time, just like I didn't want to waste my time. So he wanted to go and get a career and get an education and kind of take the time to go forward with that. And like I totally respect that. And he like did it in a really awesome way. Sometimes people get pissed off leaving in the middle of an album cycle or in the middle of working on an album. Shit
happens.
Yeah. That the way he did is super professional and awesome, and it makes sense.
So you're still brothers.
Yeah. We still talk to each other, but you know how it is with music. You stay focused, you do tunnel vision kind of thing or whatever, and so that's all good. But as far as changing a singer, I think I was super almost recklessly working on the album. Like, fuck it, I don't care if the world's ever going to open up again. I just have to make this crazy record right now. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to put everything into it. And if you want to be involved and do it with me, you got to put everything into it and get a little crazy with it. So crazy that we lived at a house for a month or so, out in
amazing,
near a lake, and just because this music takes so long if you let it. You know what I mean? I'm sure it's tedious.
Cryptopsy tends to take a little bit longer than we should, and it's for exactly many of these reasons that you're stating right now.
Yeah, it's tedious. So I feel like you almost have to drop everything and really just give it to it. It's like a little adrenaline shot to the album process, and then you can get to a point where now you're finishing it up, and we could kind of just muscle through it or whatever. So. Yeah, I think that's kind of a brutal time, and I'm kind of a pretty intense person when it comes to that process. You know what I mean? So I think it was.
So not everyone could keep up with that energy.
Yeah. So we move forward, and I think that's just the way it is. Yeah.
Well, you found excellent musicians, obviously.
Yes.
Evan, one of the best bassists in the world.
He was my favorite forever.
Just unbelievable. I remember touring with the Faceless. I'm pretty 100% sure that he was on that tour. Yeah. Just unbelievable watching him backstage, just enjoying playing constantly.
Yeah.
And then a new vocalist, Kyle. It's hard to have another vocalist come in after.
Yeah.
But the identity of Fallujah is more than just the sum of its parts. It's the whole thing.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm just I like making music, and I'm always going to make music. You know what I mean? So.
And you've changed vocalists before, so.
Yeah.
Is that something that you imagined? Because Cryptopsy, obviously, we've done that as well, and it was different eras and different identities.
Sure.
But I feel like Fallujah has a common theme that's been going throughout the whole thing, despite its vocalists.
Yeah, well, for me, it begins and ends with the music, everything. You know what I mean? So. Some people, it's about the performance or the tours or whatever, but for me, the music is the most important thing, and I'm really intense about that. And so it's just I gotta do with what I got to do. You know what I mean? And actually, it was weird having, because I wanted a vocalist to last forever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the goal. But
of course.
You don't need. Well, being realistic.
I love
or whatever.
drama.
I didn't want to do that.
I love when things change.
Yeah, sure. But I'm sitting there and I'm trying to make the best music I possibly can, and. It's not like it's not like this is the most hugest, grandest thing in the world, but it's this is really important to me. You know what I mean? So, if people are not motivated, then I'm looking for other people. And then, the fact that we were in the situation with the pandemic, I just took my time and took the experience from trying to find somebody the last time. You know what I mean? It's all right, here we are again. That's basically the same situation, but I just felt a little more confident and less anxious, and I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and I kind of already had been hearing what the album should sound like, so I don't know. And at the same time, super lucky, I think, to have found Kyle. I'd known Kyle from doing a guest solo on his record or whatever, and he is super, super talented, but that's when you're trying to find somebody, it's not always just about finding someone super talented. There's
you have
10
to like them.
different
you have
aspects.
To like them.
They have to be talented, maybe when it comes to recording and writing, so that's one aspect, and then when it comes to performing, that's a whole other aspect, and then like you said, living with them, likable, okay, and then another one on top of that, where are they at in their life, how at this age,
how reliable is he going to be be in 5 years too, let's say.
Sure, and at this age, like, this, I'm married. There's people getting married. You got kids. You got careers and stuff. And it's like, okay, so you're gonna ask somebody to. It's death metal. I'm not gonna like replace your income like totally.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? If you're making like a salary or something like that, I'll try, but can't guarantee it.
How long are you going to stay?
Yeah,
it's like a mortgage payment. Let's sign a mortgage right here.
All of those elements can all like affect it later down the road too. You know what I mean? And yeah, he's kind of an anomaly in the way that I think he's always wanted to do this. He's always been super prolific. Like, he's always written music in an underground way. He's got like 20 EPs. You know what I mean? And he's never toured with those things. It's not like he's in this machine like Fallujah is. Like, I like doing this, but I have a lot of pressure from people that, we work with. There's like booking agents and managers and labels and stuff. So it's like, it's not just purely like for the love and passion of it. There are people like kind of like, pressuring me to move forward or whatever. But the fact that he puts out so much music and does so much without any pressure like that's impressive.
Because he needs to.
Yeah,
it's a part of his being.
Yeah. And it was really clear when we started working with him, like, he would just jump into the pocket, which is so hard for some people. Like, I write music for someone to perform on, and usually they don't jump right into the pocket, fit in between all the accents and motifs. It's always kind of like a battle, and I'm just used to that. So it's a process or whatever. But for him, it was just like some of the first things he would put out. I was just like, whoa, that's perfect. It's better than because I would whisper out demos, you know what I mean? Like, here's my version of the vocal accents.
I was definitely going to ask that.
Yeah, and he would
how involved you were in the writing.
Usually I would do pre-pro like that, but when he tried out, like, I gave him one of the new songs after he nailed one of the older songs, and I just didn't give him any guidance and just let him write lyrics and phrasing, and it was just insane. And that was Soulbreaker, and what you hear on Soulbreaker is his phrasing that he wrote on his audition, so it's like, super sick. Yeah,
meant to be.
Yeah. No, he kills it, man.
Also have a bunch of guests. Something that is very cool, and it's a big part of the identity, is the female vocals.
Yeah,
that have been there since 2016 now.
Yeah.
And it's two girls, right? It's Kate and Tori.
Yeah,
I think it's important for the sound of Fallujah.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely conceded to that for sure. I mean, the last album, Undying Light, I went to like a full experimental mode, and it was kind of me stepping away from like stuff that I'd been like doing. Because, I've been there from the beginning making these songs and this progression, you know what I mean? And I just wanted to try something way more raw with way more, like, atmosphere. And I don't want to depend on guests or of any kind. Like, there's no guest solos. There's no guest vocals or whatever. It's just the band. And it's not even, like, electronic stuff. Any atmospheres we made, I tried to create them with my guitar and, like, do... You know what I mean? That was kind of the theme of that, like a more raw album, you know what I mean? And even the drum tones, we were trying to we were using like a bell brass snare and like that Gretsch kit and the Yamaha Customs, the Gretsch kick and then the Yamaha Customs, kind of like an old school, like Metallica, Deftones kind of. And I felt like we nailed it, you know what I mean? So I was really into that album. And then, with this album, it's like, let's make the ultimate Fallujah album. It's pretty clear that female vocals are what is a part of, like, the ultimate version of Fallujah, I think. And, had to bring back Tori. Obviously, she was on one of our biggest songs, The Void Alone. And then, having Katie, I wanted somebody with a deeper voice. She has a deeper voice than Tori, and it was awesome to have her on this record because I think she definitely was kind of like a star shining as far as the female vocals on this one, where I don't think she had the chance to do that on Dreamless. Like with this one on Embrace Oblivion, and what she does on Into the Eventide, it's like she really shines and it sounds perfect. And I remember trying to get Tori to do Embrace Oblivion because that was her favorite song. I sent her a few tracks. She's like, I want to be on this song. And she even conceded. She's like, I think my vocal range isn't right for this or whatever. And that's why she's on Radiant Ascension. I mean, she's amazing too.
Mature again.
Yeah. So
the maturity of artists.
Yeah, that's cool.
Throughout this conversation. I like that.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah. You can see that as you get older. And
then you got some Vox&Hops alumni, Cheney from Entios.
Yeah, I just thought it would be awesome to have some more people from the Bay Area involved in music.
She's not from there anymore, but it's
no,
okay.
I know that's fucked up because she betrayed the Bay Area. Yeah, they left for Nashville, but yeah, and also when we were listening to the part, I was also hearing like a Frederick Thornall Special Defects kind of sound over it, and I was like, that's Cheney basically.
Amazing.
Yeah, so I thought of her, and I was like, yeah, she's from the Bay. That's cool. Let's hit her up, and yeah, I've been cool with those guys for a while.
Absolutely.
Naveen and Cheney, they're
love
awesome.
Them. Yeah,
so
love
sick.
them. They have a killer podcast too. You should also go listen to them. The Copper Crab podcast. People, go check it out. I think it's so damn cool that your time on Twitch really honed in onto this album. I think had the pandemic not happened, it would have not been this album.
No way.
You would have hypothetically kept going in the shoegaze.
Maybe.
We don't know because we didn't live that dimension, right?
Yeah,
But
for
what
sure.
happened was that you revisited old tracks that you never considered even putting into a set list, and then realizing that people actually love these tracks,
Yeah.
and that it definitely influenced you writing the new material. I think that's awesome. I think it's something
Sure,
very
yeah.
important that we should be focused upon there.
Yeah. I just wanted to be very what's the word, like a tapestry of sound, you know what I mean, as opposed to the other one being more like pure colors or whatever. This one I knew from the beginning it had to be like almost like not quite the same, but like when you put on Epitaph, like there's so much detail there. It's like, oh, we're gonna have to listen to this 5 or 10 times
that's
to
true,
really
though.
figure
Yeah.
it out. Because that's what I loved about albums when I was younger. So it's like, we should do that. It's gonna be very tedious, but let's
Dig
try
in
this.
deep.
Yeah.
Especially in the modern era, people don't really spend much time with albums. It's more of
Sure,
a track by track experience, but Empyrean is definitely an album experience that should be eaten in whole. People check it out, do it. Mental health. Definitely want to talk about mental health. It's
Sure.
something very important for me.
Okay, yeah.
Something that I feel in our scene needs to be spoken about even
Yes.
more. What do you do? What is your technique when you're feeling down in the dumps? How do you make yourself feel better? What is something that you try to do?
I guess that is something that comes up super often because there's a lot of stuff. I mean, just, like being on this tour, there's a lot of stuff that you have to deal with. I'll just talk about just maybe the performance stuff, not even like band dynamic stuff or being out on the road. You know what I mean? You're never going to play perfectly, and I'm the kind of person that's
Does
like,
that drive you crazy?
No, dude, it drives me nuts because that's all I want to do is put on a great show
Really?
and play to what I feel is my full capabilities. Because I know I've done some crazy shows where I nailed everything, and so it's there.
And you're like, I could bring a stool. How often do you have to fight yourself?
Yeah, or just I don't know. And then something happens, and it can be not even something that's in your control. Like I don't know, like you're
Some
just
technical issue or something.
Dude, there's my hair just gets in my mouth or something
Yeah.
like that, and you're like, oh fucking, you're trying to do that.
Yeah.
I'll do a whammy thing, whatever, and it's just like,
Is that moment that I want to throw up because I got a hair down my throat?
or something like
It's
that.
amazing.
Yeah, and it's really when I was younger, it was really easy for that to just end the night. You know what I mean?
Really?
Especially if I got 2 solos fucked up in a row, I
No
was
way.
furious. You know what I mean? Maybe it was something else or something like that, or riffs or something just doesn't go my way.
This is why you're so good. This is good.
I guess
you
I
need
don't know.
you got to helmet in though,
Yeah, but
because you are there and people are there and they're going to love you whether you make a good
that's
a
what you
flub
got to
or not.
realize, that it's more about the connection and it's more about the the literal performance, not the details. That's what makes that's my brain and how it works for me. You know what I mean? And it took me a while to figure that out.
When you're watching someone, are you as harsh?
Never, ever.
That's what I'm
because you understand.
curious
That's kind of, it's like you're in a different dimension. You're in the focus, everything's
Interesting.
slower, everything's louder. You know what I mean? I don't know if you know that when you notice that on stage, like especially if you play those big ones. You know what I'm saying? All of a sudden, it's
my
like,
heart is like,
dude, dude. I'm sure
we
you
play
know.
Vakken, man.
Like the music just slows down,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden, every movement is like to really like
It's
know
true
your
that
shit.
I have spoken about the black void, is what I call it, when you make a mistake.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh shit, I made a mistake. Oh fuck, I made a mistake. And then because you're in that black void, it's like a spiral. You make another mistake.
Can you jump out of the rim?
You have to jump out of the rim of the toy. Exactly.
Dude, or else you get a bad mood.
Then
right?
you're down the drain. But
Yeah, so it's almost a part of it is just being, what's the word? I don't know, resilient, I guess, towards that stuff, and understanding that it's not going to help you to get really mad all the time.
No.
And it's
I think you should really try to imagine yourself in the crowd, because if you were in the crowd, you would be much more forgiving.
Yeah, what's really helped me is I stream all the shows. So I've literally had a show where I would be pretty pissed off, and I just run upstairs, don't talk to anybody, end the stream, and watch it immediately with those parts that I fucked up. And
really?
Sometimes I'm just like, okay, I see what wrong there. And sometimes I was like, oh, that was not as bad as I thought.
Okay, so if it is fucking horrible and it's like the worst and you're embarrassed and you're pissed, what is your technique to get you out of that?
I think you just have to understand that it's like, this is not the main, like people don't see you like the way you see you, and you have to like move on. Like, it's not going to help you. It's not going to help you get better. Just whatever. Sometimes things happen, and that's kind of just part of it. You know what I mean? And I've actually gotten pretty good at not getting super pissed off and relaxing. I guess if I had to give a specific technique as to what to help is just. I know, because it's like a weird mental gymnastic you do. You kind of just got to be like, fuck it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, it's okay. It's going to be okay. You know what I mean? Nobody's perfect. And that was a hard thing for me on Twitch too. That really helped me with Twitch is because I'm used to like Instagram videos or playthroughs. So
where it's already perfect.
That shit is perfect before you press upload. You know what I mean? And Twitch was a pretty shitty transition because it's like, you believe that everybody sees you a certain way because you've been putting out this content a certain way, and here you are on Twitch, fully exposed, live and raw. Yeah. They see, like, maybe you put out some videos of you improvising and made yourself look real sick, and now you have to improvise to a track right now. Like, that's the real you right there. And at first I was like, really paranoid all the time, and like they're gonna think I suck. You know what I mean? And then you realize that your talent will shine through. People do see that, you know what I mean? And people understand that, you don't have to be perfect and insane, even though you got these people in your head. Like for me, I just have people in my head that I know are insane and perfect, and I'm like, well, that motherfucker fucking nails it every night. Like I got to be like that.
People are aliens.
Yeah, but we can all become aliens. I believe
That's
that
true,
if you change your brain into an alien brain, I guess. I don't
like
know.
that.
Yeah, that's how if you're going to be regular if you act regular, So I don't know. But even then, I still get pissed off. But I think knowing when you're having good bandmates too, I've had people that have been like, bro, it's not worth it for you to get like this. You know what I mean? You realize it wasn't so bad. You know what I mean? And after 10 years
would bring
of it,
like a weird vibe into the band.
Sure, and I've done it for sure. I've done like, what the fuck? In the green room.
You're crawling back into a van together. The vibe is.
Yeah. But you're growing
one
up. You don't know
person
what the right thing is.
No,
you know what I mean?
so you started touring at 18.
Yeah, you're just kind of doing it.
There's no school for this shit.
Yeah, no, not at all. But I guess you just got it's a skill in itself. Just let it fall off your back and figure
Tomorrow.
out. Yeah, and always just focus on like, okay, what can I do to prevent that? And if it's something you can't prevent, then it's absolutely nothing to lose sweat over. You know what I mean? Like if someone strobed you in the face or you slipped and then you weren't set up for the solo right and you fucked it up, there's nothing you can do about that. And if it was something that had to do with like for me now, it's all just mentality, like breathing, like, you know what I mean, and being calm before I go on, and not pressing too hard and playing too hard, and you know what I mean. It's like
while looking super cool.
Yeah, you have to look cool as well. yeah. I don't know.
It's like screaming. So screaming is a very relaxing thing,
right? Yeah.
But we have to make it look like we're working really hard.
Yeah,
if not, it looks weird.
And if you push yourself too hard, the tone
won't work.
doesn't sound good. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
But you have to look like you're working really hard.
Yeah, I say nobody cares as much as you care.
No,
but maintain that caring. You know what I mean? It's like a balance. Yeah, it's a balance.
Wow.
Don't let it ruin your night. But use it
I don't
as
think
fuel.
I've ever met someone as hard on themselves as you.
Oh, I've met some
Christian
pretty crazy
Donaldson.
people.
Christian Donaldson's pretty fucking tough.
Yeah.
But he'll drink it off and he'll feel okay.
Dude, Joe from Psychroptic, he's pretty fucking brutal too, man. You should hear him.
One of the most underrated guitarists in the world.
Yes,
Anytime
sir.
I can say it, I say on the podcast as often as I can.
I agree 100%.
He's so good. So
Every
good.
time.
I got to talk about collabs. I love making collabs. I've released 50 to 80 of them. In the past 2 years, I love making beers. I like making teas. I like making coffees. You collabed with Kiesel, obviously. We could talk about that one, but I think it would be more interesting if you could do your own collab for Fallujah. What would it be? What is the perfect thing for Fallujah to collab with? Something with a Fallujah logo on it.
Either a Fallujah coffee or a Fallujah sparkling water, I would say. I'm obsessed with sparkling water.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, we drink coffee every day. We're like totally addicted.
I love coffee.
Like, we'll literally be late for load-in. They're like, it's not like...
Well, there's not going to be
it's
good
like
coffee
going
at
to
the
gas
venue.
station.
There's not going to be good coffee at the venue.
It's like you have to go to the gas station. Sorry. Like, we had to go get coffee. It's like, we'll show up with the coffees late.
Yes.
Like, hey, what's up, guys? Like, but no sparkling water. I don't know. I just love that shit. I'll drive to the store like it's cigarettes. You know what I mean?
Oh,
like 8 p.m. Like, let's go to the store. We ran out. You know?
Me too. Yeah, if
Okay.
I'm not drinking, I'll drink sparkling water.
Yeah, dude, I've tried them all, and like my favorite right now is Topo Chico. That's like I love that one.
Okay.
I think it's from Monterey or whatever. It's like a Mexican brand, but yeah, Gerald Steiner and Perrier and all that stuff. I went through them. I have opinions on all of them and which ones are better. Different times, different meals.
He was looking for a Perrier.
Oh yeah, when we walked here,
we stopped at a dépanneur at a convenience store.
They only had an AHA. I guess it'll do. But I have to have one. It's like cigarettes, or it's like my weird habit. But
I love that.
If we had a Fallujah sparkling water, that'd be cool.
That'd be cool. What flavor? Is it flavored? Is it not flavored?
I would call it atmospheric lemon, probably.
Oh, shit.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, just a hint.
This is a Heavy Montreal Presents Vox and Hops episode. I'm from Montreal. I love Montreal. It's a vibrant city. It was very, very easy for me to fall into a band with serious people because there's just so many amazing bands from here, so many people inspired being from here. You are from California. Same vibe, but way bigger, way more cities, and way more bands. It's been easy filling the ranks because there's so many amazing musicians from California for you guys over the years. Talk to me about that, about having that. I would say there's like the medicine cabinet where someone's sick, you can open the medicine cabinet and fill a void of a missing band member from the Montreal scene versus the Cali scene.
There's tons of people that grew up in the Bay Area, and it's weird when you grow up in it. You didn't realize it until you go on tour. You're like, oh, not everybody's scene is like it's like it's as packed as ours. It has as many shows and stuff. But I think when we were younger, we didn't realize that we had like a sick crew of people. But it's cool to see it now. 10 years later, all of these dudes have gone on to do some awesome stuff. Like Chasen Westmoreland filled in for us. That guy's super. What's the band he just played in? Volvidia, I think.
Volvidia.
Yeah, dude, it's insane. He's done with stuff with The Faceless and Hate Eternal and all these crazy bands. Jack Blackburn filled in for us once. He did stuff for like Vital Remains. You know what I mean? Nicole Grun, he filled in for us before he formed his band Vervum in Europe. You know what I mean? It's like, so I don't know, maybe we just kind of, we all gathered around the music, you know what I mean? There's these fellow musicians that are like, oh, that's some cool music you're making, and we all got to know each other. And at the time, I don't think we knew like that these were the guys that were going to be in all the bands later.
It just happened.
On. Yeah, but
something in the water.
Yeah, because we're younger, we can't like provide tons of money for these people, so it's not like the caliber of musicians is going to be like up there with the headlining bands or whatever. Like, it's going to be like kids like us that are trying to make it work and have a passion for doing it and are willing to sleep in a van to make it happen. You know what I mean? And I think what made us lucky to be in the Bay Area is having older mentors from, you know what I mean? Because I actually had a lot of great conversations with older people that were in bands from the area. Like All Shall Perish was a really big band in our area, and those dudes like literally would invite us to parties at their house, and even one day like sat down and explained everything about record labels and their tactics with 360 deals and how you could be a huge band coming home with this money if you set yourself up with this, or you could be a huge band coming home with this money if you set yourself up like this, explaining all of this stuff to us. And maybe if you're a band from somewhere that doesn't have like a flourishing scene, maybe you didn't get that information, and as soon as you get an opportunity, you jump at it without thinking about it. And that was kind of important, just watching other older bands make it work.
That's another thing that's been shining throughout this conversation is you're not afraid to ask for help from people that know what they're doing. You mentioned Archspire guitarist Dean.
Yeah,
Dean, when you were starting to do video. You mentioned as we were walking here talking about Matt Heafy for the Twitch stuff.
Yeah.
Here now, All Shall Perish about record label stuff. I think that's a very important thing about the scene too. That's true. That older mentors should be more open to young, flourishing bands. If you want your scene to do well, you need to nurture the younger bands. So spread the knowledge.
Yeah, they can't do. They're going to struggle along the way if they do it by themselves. For sure,
we all struggle.
and when you're on tour, you could see the young band doing some shit that you're like, yo, they shouldn't be doing
that.
That's
a no. That's no.
But instead of just like laughing at them, just go and tell them. Yeah. In a
I think
nice
it's important.
way. Yeah.
I have one last question.
Sure.
Classic Vox and Hops wrap-up question. It probably doesn't happen to you very often because you're busy taking care, being the best guitarist you can be, leading a fucking great band, writing crazy albums in the woods for months.
Yes.
But every once in a while, it happens to everyone. Hypothetically, later tonight, if you come back to Turbo Haüs, massive cheers to the Turbo Haüs crew for accepting us, welcoming us to come here tonight and serving us a killer Lagerbräu beer. Every once in a while happens to everyone. What is your hangover cure?
Hangover cure? Let's see. I would say some Pedialyte and some Top Ramen.
Yes.
Yeah. Some real salty, liquidy shit. You know what I mean? But I do the Top Ramen hack where you, before you put in the powders and all that stuff, you put an egg, mayonnaise, and sriracha and some garlic in there, and you swish it all up in there, and it gets all super dank like a real ramen thing.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's usually what I'll have. That or pokey. I don't know if you have pokey. It's like kind of like raw sushi. It's like just like the raw tuna with like
Of course.
That seems like the best thing for hangovers. It's like all the different stuff in there. It's not too weird.
That's the first time I've gotten that one.
Both kind of Japanese-style foods. I don't know why.
It's the salt, I think. It makes you want to drink more.
But Pedialyte.
Pedialyte is the secret. Is a massive secret.
I've noticed that. I learned that from being on tour.
I need a collab with Pedialyte. Scott, thank you so much for taking the time hanging out with me, talking about your life, music, sharing a killer Lagerbräu at Turbo Haüs. This is great. I had a blast. Hope you had a blast. You're going to kill it tonight with Psychroptic. This is great. Thanks so much.
Dude,
cheers.
Thank you, man. I had fun. Hell yeah. Big cheers.
Hey, thank you all so much for listening right today. You know that I love and appreciate that. Man, this was an awesome conversation. I love getting to do face-to-face interviews, especially with people that I don't know that well. What a deeper connection we form face-to-face versus speaking virtually on Zoom, as I normally do. Awesome. I really enjoyed it, and I was blown away by Scott's level of perfectionism, the way that he has to just play perfectly. I was blown away, and I went to the show after we had this conversation, and lo and behold, when I went upstairs to say goodbye to him, what was he doing after his set? He was looking at the video that he had filmed for his Twitch, and he was checking out any spots where he felt that he was not perfect. I was blown away. Massive cheers to Scott. You were amazing, and you are amazing. You got to take it easy on yourself. We can't always be perfect. I am very impressed with your level of perfectionism, but don't let it get you down. Huge cheers to Scott for hanging out with me. I had a blast. I hope he did as well. Now, if you enjoyed this Vox&Hops episode, you should sign up to the Vox&Hops Metal Podcast mailing list. You can go on my website, voxandhops.com. That's VOXANDHOPS.com. And when you do that, you shall receive one email a month that will contain all of the details of everything that has happened recently in the world of the Vox&Hops Metal Podcast. You will get to see which episodes I dropped recently. You also get to see which episodes I have coming up. You will also get to hear about any projects I have in the works before I announce them to the public. And you'll get to see which albums the Vox&Hops album review crew have reviewed recently, and you'll also get to see which bands Jerry Monk, the metal architect himself, has added to the Brutal Awakenings playlist, the most extreme, the most fresh metal music in the world. You want to know what's happening in the music scene? You want to know what's happening underground? Well, the Brutal Awakenings playlist is what you want to be checking out. There is just so much going on in the world of the Vox&Hops Metal Podcast. I'd hate for you to miss a single thing, so please sign up to the mailing list. The Vox&Hops Metal Podcast is brought to you by Sound Talent Media and Evergreen Podcasts. I hope you have a killer rest of the week. I have one more episode coming up this Friday, but until then, remember to enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. Cheers, Vox&Hops heads.